Hello everyone, today is Monday, March 2nd, 2026. We've got the Texas Senate primaries tomorrow. We've had early voting for 2 weeks, and I was checking stats on who's ahead now. I knew Tallarico had been surging on the Democrat side, was wondering if Paxton had been holding his lead on the Cornyn unseating bid of his longtime Senator, John Cornyn. And we'll get to those numbers. But I was struck by these insane propositions on the Republican primary ballot tomorrow. So these are non-binding, and this in Texas, you've got a legislative session down in Austin every other year, basically January through May, every other year. That is not what these guys are going for. These guys are going for the Republican-held Senate seat up in Washington right now. There's always two. They're lately always Republican. And Cornyn, the guy who's been there for 24 years, is having the political fight of his life against insurgent Ken Paxton, current Texas State Attorney General, who is as dirty, filthy, corrupt as they come. And they're both trying to out-Trump each other. But before we get to that, let me just read you these 4 propositions on the Republican primary ballot. These are for the Republicans who control things down in Austin. For them to decide what to prioritize in the legislative session that will take place in Austin a year from now. And so they'll take it up, and whatever the Republican primary voters want, then the Republicans down in Austin a year from now will be taking that up, trying to get it done. We don't have a state income tax here in Texas. We do have a pretty high property tax, percentage-wise. And this one's not controversial. Proposition 1, phasing out property tax entirely over the next 6 years. That would be crazy. That for homeowners, that would be huge. Obviously, no one would be against that. Proposition 8 is, this is where it gets kind of crazy, ending all public services for undocumented immigrants to reduce taxpayer burden. If you've ever watched old clips of Rick Perry, he was one of the longest serving governors in Texas history. He came after George W. Bush, who left the governor's mansion down in Austin to be the president for 8 years. These two were really hardcore Republicans, but they were really, they knew that you had just so many immigrants here in Texas, and you couldn't just kick them all out. You had to integrate them and try to help them and make them productive and take care of them. And both of them were like, yeah, these people have to be in school all day. They have to learn. They have to get jobs, pay taxes. They got it. The Republicans down in Austin don't. So Proposition 8, ending all public services for undocumented immigrants. Proposition 9 is banning Democrats from holding committee chair positions in the Texas legislature. So they're going to take their Republican advantage in the legislature to ban Democrats from holding any committee chair positions in the Texas legislature. That's something they may take up a year from now. I bet they will. That's one of the 4 propositions on here, non-binding propositions on their primary ballot tomorrow. And then finally, because this is such a huge problem in Texas and tongue planted firmly in cheek here, one that you could only imagine how bad it must be down here in Texas, with all these strict adherents of the Islamic religion here in Texas. Texas, noted bastion of Islamic fundamentalism. Proposition 10 that the Republicans want to hear Republican voters chime in on tomorrow. A specific proposal to prohibit Sharia law from influencing Texas government. This has been a major focus of recent GOP TV ads. This is the fear mongering, the fear stoking that the Republicans are famous for, especially here in Texas. Number two issue right now is always been number one, and that is border security. And that, in like really recently, heading into this primary, has been knocked to number two, border security. And it's behind affordability for groceries and energy. And both candidates are railing on this. And this is where you see by the way, I'm shifting into the Cornyn versus Paxton issues here real quick. This is where you see the distinct difference between having a 24-year senator in Washington versus a guy who's never been in Washington. The guy who's never been in Washington, his plan, Paxton, the low down, dirty, filthy scoundrel, who loves Trump, loves Trump. Cornyn acts like he loves Trump just because he's a politician. He knows he needs to do that here in Texas. Texas has 89% support for Donald Trump here among Texas Republicans. So that's what they all run on is, I love Trump and therefore you should vote for me. That's every Republican campaign here in Texas. So Cornyn's plan for getting better affordability is to get it done through legislation. And he says, I'm on committees, I head some committees, I can help get legislation to make things more affordable. Paxton's plan is to shut down the government. He wants to use in his words, the power of the purse in the Senate to shut down the government unless the Democrats and the remnants of all of Biden's decisions, which are why we have inflation, he wants to shut down the government to drive down grocery prices. That's Ken Paxton. And by the way, he is winning. The race has tightened. They'll probably go to a runoff here in May. They need a 50% majority in order to win their primary. There is a third candidate who's still got roughly a sixth of the vote, 17%. So right now, according to the poll yesterday from Emerson, Paxton is still ahead by a few points. Neither one of them will get the 50%. So despite being wildly outspent by incumbent John Cornyn, who has all of the super PAC money behind him, Paxton's just running this grassroots campaign and trying to be the most Trumpy of them all, and he is succeeding, and that, I think, will carry the day. Maybe not tomorrow because they will have to go to the runoff in May, but I think it's Paxton's race to lose at this point. I don't think people trust Cornyn. But here's what Texans would lose as far as looking to their senators to give Texans a better shake. I'm not going to say a fairer shake, but a better shake in Washington. When you've been a senator for 24 years like John Cornyn has, he's on all kinds of committees. And I was looking up, because a lot of these are like, they're based on seniority, right? And they're based on influence. And so some of the committees that Cornyn is on, there's 5 of them here, 5 big ones that Paxton's almost certainly not going to be on any of them. He has a chance to be on budget and judiciary because those are kind of workhorse committees where there's a lot of just work to be done and you throw that to the new guys or girls. But Cornyn is on the Senate Finance Committee, and that controls taxes, trade, Social Security, and Medicare. And that's arguably the most powerful Senate committee. So Cornyn's on that. He's on Select Intelligence, which oversees CIA, NSA, and national security secrets. You get access to classified briefings. Paxton's not getting on that. Paxton has no shot at the Senate Finance Committee. That's why he doesn't want to bring prices down through legislation like Cornyn can. He just wants to do it by shutting the government down. Also, foreign relations. So you've got foreign policy and treaties and diplomatic nominations. That's pretty prestigious. Paxton would have no shot of being on that. You could be on the budget and judiciary committees if you're new. If you're going to be low level, you won't have any say. But as far as Cornyn, he's not only on those 5 committees, but he is actually the top Republican on 2 of them. He's either the chair of it or is the well, right now he is the chair, but he's going to be the ranking Republican if the Democrats happen to take control. And those are international trade and customs, which you've got the Texas-Mexico border, so that's huge for that. And for Texas voters whose normal number 1 priority is border security, now it's dipped to number 2. If you're smart and if you're a Republican voter in Texas, you would vote to keep Cornyn in place because he's at the top of that committee. And it's prioritizing Texans' interests in that committee versus having Paxton come in and not even being on the committee. And then you've also got immigration and border security, right? So you've got international trade and customs, which is the economy between Texas and Mexico, among other things, and immigration and border security. So if Texan Republicans were smart, there's no contest who they would elect tomorrow. It would be Cornyn. I'm not giving them that credit. I'm thinking Paxton's going to win the primary tomorrow, but not have 50% majority, and therefore they'll have to go to May. And at that point, the financial guns are really going to come out for Cornyn. I mean, they already have now to just astronomical levels. And then quickly over to the Democrat side, we've got, it's just a 2-horse race there. You've got Crockett versus Tallarico. Crockett had the extraordinary name recognition just from being a really effective House member up in Washington lately, and she's in the media a lot. She's got a social media presence, so a lot of people knew who she was. She had big name recognition, so as soon as she entered right at the deadline in December, she was the immediate favorite. Tallarico was relatively unknown. He's made a name for himself. He has now pulled into the lead in that same Emerson poll that came out yesterday by 5 points, 52 to 47. That's within the margin of error. I think that's anyone's race. You don't know what's going to happen or which Democrats are going to turn out. I'm not making a prediction there. I did predict Paxton would lead tomorrow on the Republican side, but I think it will be going to a runoff. On the Democrat side, it's not going to go to a runoff, but I don't know who's going to win, and I'm not going to try to predict or try to endorse anyone or anything like that. Leave that to the good Democrats of Texas to decide for ourselves. Polls are open 7 to 7 here in Tarrant County tomorrow. I will be there casting my vote, and we will keep our eyes on this. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd appreciate it. Helps the channel grow and helps get this in front of more eyeballs. I don't always focus on Texas politics like this, but this is it's just been just kind of a once in a generation, really on both sides kind of story. With longtime Texas Senator John Cornyn likely to lose, I think. So that's what makes it super interesting to me on the Republican side. Okay, we'll talk to you all later.